take like a moment of like silence to have God come help me in this story. Okay. So I was born into a what you would call a great family, a blessing, from the outside it was a great family. And I know a lot of everybody knows what I'm talking about here. You know? My dad was in the military when I was real young, and I never really got to see him. And then when he was out of the military, he was a welder, so he was out of town a lot, and I was home with my mom, and my mom has some mental health issues growing up. I wasn't aware of the mental health issues at my young age because I didn't know, no one explained it to a 5 or 6 year old. That's just not what you do. So I had some battles with my mother. I wasn't a good kid either, let's just say that. So out of the rip, I was just not good. I had a lot of behavioral issues as well. Me and my mom are one and the same. We fought a lot. I am one of 3 kids. I am the middle child. I have a younger brother and an older brother. I'm so nervous. So when I was young, about 5, 6, the first run-in with my mother, I fell down 2 flights of stairs as we talk about it now. But my older brother, I was 6, so I don't really remember. I just remember being talked to and being in a cast, and that's really the extent of my remembering. But my brother likes to remind me till this day that I've gotten pushed by my mother down 2 flights of stairs. She broke my femur bone, and I didn't go to the hospital for 2 weeks. So that was my first real run-in that I remember slightly with my mother. And it just continued from there, you know, all through school, you know, talking to my counselors, going to their office, bruises. It wasn't fun. It wasn't a fun childhood. I stayed in as many sports as I could. Basketball, football, softball, track, anything I could get into to not be home. And no one believed me when I said anything because what it looked like on the outside was this great, loving family that could never do anything wrong, you know. And that was a lie. I lived a lie for a really long time. And living in that lie growing up, I eventually just learned that it's better to lie than to tell the truth. And I almost got taken away from my family. That was the worst. I didn't really have understanding of anything that was going on until about 16. That's when everything really happened for me. Well, let's just go back to 13. I picked up heroin at 13 years old. It was my way out for me. Emotionally, mentally, physically, out of this world that I didn't want to be in. You know, and I grew up in a family that was raised to go to church, to look good, and everyone would believe this facade of life that we were living, and that's what happened. So, and I knew in my heart that just wasn't true. So I couldn't live like that, and I didn't know any other way, being so young. So I turned to heroin. So I was an IV user from 13 to, I'm 22 months clean now. Praise be to God for that. 16, my parents got divorced. My mom had robbed my dad of a lot of money. Just not a good person overall. Didn't have God in her life. Didn't really know know God. You can claim God as your Savior, but do you really know God? Do you offer Him in your life daily? And that was just something that she didn't do. So my parents got divorced, and that was the same year. That was 16. That was the same year I fell in love with my fiance. His name was Jake Crozier. Started using really heavily. I left home. I would stay with him. He was my neighbor at the time. I just felt infatuated with him. I was in love with him. I didn't know at the time that it was the drugs, but it was the drugs. I just couldn't wait to wake up and see him and use all day, and that's all I did. And I lost scholarships, I lost offers, I lost a lot of things because of my drug use. But the one thing that gave me hope between the two of us was that we wanted to get sober. We never lost that want to get sober. And he, around 18, asked me to marry him. And so I said yes. And, I didn't want to do that if I wasn't sober, and he didn't want to either, so we got sober, or so what I thought we both were. Shortly after that, we were going to work, coming home, and one day I worked late. I come home and he's not responsive. He's blue. I knew that he was using. I had an inkling. I had a thought. You always know when something's wrong. God lets you know. And I knew, but it didn't change the fact that it broke my heart. I firmly believed that I was going to spend the rest of my life with this man. I didn't know till then that he would end up saving my life by dying that day. He also believed in God. Every day we had talks, but he couldn't be as spiritual as we wanted to be using. So when he overdosed, I fell off my rocker. I didn't go to his memorial service because I was too high, and that was my first relapse. Just too high, in bed, miserable, wouldn't get up, wouldn't shower, wouldn't brush my teeth, wouldn't eat. So that was my first almost visit to the psych ward. I just wasn't able to do anything. And that's where my addiction really took its toll. I hadn't been sick. I hadn't really had any kind of repercussions other than him dying, which wasn't my repercussions. They were his own. My repercussions started from that. And my life really took a downhill spiral. From there, my addiction took off tenfold. It really did. I didn't care. I didn't care who I robbed, who I stole from, who I lied to. I've stole thousands and thousands of dollars from my family. And I'm not proud of it, but that is part of my story, so that's why I'm going to stand up here and tell you that today. I also have been I put myself in situations to get raped twice. I just wanted the dope more than I wanted life. So at the time, it really didn't matter. Oh well, this is what happens. And I've sold myself. I've been taken. I've been sold for drugs. Just one thing after another, and it wasn't really until all those things didn't stop me. It didn't matter what was happening in my life. It wasn't going to stop my drug use. It wasn't going to stop the way I was living. I I think it was when I finally, because I had lost my family throughout this process of stealing and robbing and lying and just wrecking their lives and damaging things and taking things that they could never get back. Wedding rings that they had had for 20, 30, 40 years, my grandparents, gone. And it wasn't till then where they kicked me out of their lives and I had no one. And living in my car and under a bridge after that. And it's not till then, until I lost everything in my life, that I finally decided that was enough was enough. December 5th, 2017 is my sobriety date. And that is the day I got delivered from heroin. Shortly after that, I went to a treatment center down in Florida. A Christian facility by the name of Banyan. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. Saved my life. God saved my life. I got baptized. I am now saved. I couldn't tell you the feeling I have now. It doesn't even compare to anything I have went through. This feeling of overwhelming joy doesn't compare to any of the bad things that have ever happened to me, any of the anger that I've ever felt. I feel so overwhelmed with joy, and I just can't explain the feeling that God has given me.